You're listening to MISO, the Mesothelioma Podcast, where support, education, and outreach come together for families facing mesothelioma.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Anna Jackson. Welcome back to MISO, the MISO Podcast. Today's guest is Linda Chitwood, and I invited Linda into this podcast because I wanted her to talk a little bit about her book. But if Linda, would you introduce yourself and what you do?
Sure. Currently, I am semi-retired. I am an RN, and I have spent most of my career teaching nursing. And most nurse educators like me have aged out, but they call me back to do a little bit of work for them. Some that, and I'm a grandmother and a mom, and that is probably the most important things I am.
I have a 1-year-old granddaughter. She's my only one. So listen, I love being a grandma. She is wonderful. So amazing. Yeah, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. So I wanted to start out, you know, why you wrote the book, Fear to Faith.
I felt compelled to write it because when Lanny was first diagnosed, I didn't find much hope anywhere. And I wanted people to feel some hope. I wanted to tell my story to know, let people know we got through it. He lived for almost 10 years. They were mostly good quality years.
Yeah.
And that, yes, death may happen. It may not happen, but you can still be hopeful.
Yeah. Find the joy in
the joy.
And
What your introduction just said with MISO, you know, giving hope, trying to find support, all of the above.
Right. So tell me, Lanny, your husband, tell me what he did for a living.
He was a game warden. That was one of the strangest things with us. We live where there's shipbuilding. We live in Tidewater, Virginia, and there's Newport News shipbuilding, there's Norfolk shipbuilding. Asbestos is very common. Mm-hmm. But he worked outdoors all his life, never smoked. Neither of us did. And it just seemed the weirdest thing that he would come down with mesothelioma. He did work some construction jobs here and there in college. And of course, everyone our age, I'll be 74 in July, we were all exposed to asbestos. It was everywhere. It was in schools. Yeah. It was everywhere. So we were all exposed. And it's an incidental exposure type thing.
Yeah, I don't think that people realized how many products were made with asbestos. So if you were, you know, probably our age, you know, 1960s, 1970s to 1980s there was quite a number of products that were made from asbestos, and you'd be surprised where or what products were made from asbestos. I mean, I was surprised to hear some of them, and I work in that industry where we talk to people about what they do for a living because they've been diagnosed. I was very surprised to hear some of the products that had that. So I wanted to, if we can go into the last sentence of your prologue states that everything was going well until November 15th, 2017. What happened that day?
Well, it would have been probably 2007.
Did I put the wrong date on there? Okay. 2007. I put 17, but I think it is.
That's okay.
But you know better than I do. So
that's okay. That was the day that I came home from work, and he had been fighting an upper respiratory infection, a cold, which was very unusual for him. He never was sick. Mm-hmm. And he asked me, I am a nurse, and he said, will you check my lungs out? He said, I just feel like I'm coughing and you know, I just want you to check my lungs out, which is something I did for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And when I listened to his lungs, I heard nothing on the right side, absolutely nothing. And I looked at him, and he was pink, and he was all the good colors you want someone who's healthy to be. But I knew there was something terribly wrong. And I said, I think you need to go see our doctor the next morning. And I had a terrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. My nerve, you know, when you're a nurse, you've been a nurse for a long time, you sort of know when someone's really got something going on. And I definitely had that feeling.
I guess it's knowing what you know and what you did for a living, it made, it just kind of scared you a little more than
It did. I did not have the luxury of denial, of thinking, oh, it's probably
right.
nothing. I knew it was something.
So how long from the time that on November 15th till you actually received a diagnosis?
It was about 10 days. He was hospitalized. That was on a Thursday, and on a Friday morning, we had to go 2 diverging paths. I had to go to work. I had something I had to get done. And he went to see our doctor, and she hospitalized him right away, and they x-rayed him, and his lung was filled with fluid. And they hospitalized him then. And they told us that day, they were asking all sorts of questions. They found 3 tumors, and they were asking about asbestos and all that. So I knew they were thinking mesothelioma. Mm-hmm. And actually, it was about the following Wednesday. I knew all the doctors. I knew the pulmonologists. And one of them sought me out while I was with my students and said, initially they thought it was renal adrenal cancer because that's clear celled and his was clear celled. But he had clear cell mesothelioma, which is only a small portion of people have that. And but he took me aside. He said, it's looking less and less like renal adrenal. It's looking more like mesothelioma. So he had kept me updated with that.
Right.
And we got the initial diagnosis about a week later. And then it was, once Duke got involved, they wanted to see the slides. They wanted to do their own slides. And then it was really, we were thinking then it probably was.
Right. So Duke, he had his biopsy at Duke.
He had his first one at OBC in Suffolk, which is about a half an hour from here. And they did a marvelous job. Duke complimented everything they did. But we wanted to, when we knew he probably was going to have the extrapleural pneumonectomy. Now, the extrapleural pneumonectomy is when they remove the lung that's not the most severe, the lung that was involved, the lining around the lung, the lining around the heart, half his diaphragm and 1 rib. It's a huge, huge operation. They clear everything out. And I had done a lot of research, and I pretty much realized that was about the best thing they could offer at this point in time. I guess they do other things now, but at that point in time, that bought him the most time and gave us the most hope.
Yeah, I think at this point right now, they have a few more options, immunotherapies, and I really think that they don't tend to go the route of the
oral pneumonectomy.
Yes.
EPP, otherwise known as the EPP.
Right. A lot of it, or what I hear is, maintaining the cancer and just prolonging life. But I think that a lot of the ones that have survived the longest are those that have had a chance to do the EPP.
I keep hearing that even in this day and time. I'm surprised, but I do hear that quite frequently. And I have had lawyers who work with mesothelioma tell me that if they ever came down with it, they would ask for it.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough.
It's a tough decision.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So, okay, I already asked the question. So Dr. Seuss tells you that the only hope is for survival is EPP. Tell me about that operation. It's a long operation.
It is a long.
Yeah, you did kind of break down what that was.
Right. It is a long operation. It's very involved. And as one of the doctors there told me, he said, it's one of the hardest, most difficult operations to recover from, because usually they're replacing things when they do a double lung thing. They replace the lungs with healthier lungs so the person feels better and recovers better. But here they're actually taking something you need, and you have to learn to function with just one lung. Lanny did great. He was only in the hospital 6 days.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
They told us to be prepared for 10 to 14 days, and I was. But by day 6, he was up and around. And honestly, I can say it didn't slow him down a whole lot. He was so otherwise healthy that it didn't really slow him. We had a real problem with pain management. He didn't react well to narcotics, so there was only a few narcotics he could be put on. But we finally got his pain under control with methadone, which people don't realize that is a pain reliever. That's what, methadone, they think of drug abuse. Everybody thinks that, but it's also a pain reliever. And that really helped to control his pain well.
Yeah. One of the things that I did want people to hear about, you had a very, very good, based on what I read, support group.
I did.
And so I kind of want you to talk a little bit about, the importance of a support group. Even with strangers. You mentioned when you were waiting for him in the waiting room while he was having surgery, there were strangers that were willing to support you in any way.
Yes.
As well. Can you kind of break that down? Or?
Sure. Well, we're very friendly people anyway, and somehow or another, with cancer families, everybody feels a bond. And even in the waiting room, people would say, "Well, who's sick, you or him?" Because he looked so well for so long. And I would say, "Well, he's the one." But people were very friendly. This is a very country community, and it's everybody looks out for each other. It's very rural. And anytime I needed anything, all I had to do was pick up the phone. And our church really supported us. They brought us food 3 times a week, right? Really nice Southern people cook. And so they brought us a huge meal 3 days a week for a month. And that really helped us a lot too, because we were going back and forth to Duke so much. And I never knew when I was going to get home. And it was usually stuff I could microwave and come home. And it was just nice to have that. And I really appreciated that. My work family was very supportive. They were very flexible with letting me there's times I just had to say, I can't be here tomorrow. And they were very good about that.
Yeah. And, I like to bring that up because, sometimes people don't want to, bother other people with in need. But I think it's not only important for the individual, the caretaker or the individual that has been diagnosed, but even for the people that are giving you the support. I mean, I think I look at it as a blessing for both people. And the funny thing was I had read a book, I think about a year before my husband passed away from cancer. And one of the things that was brought up was, don't take the blessing away from someone else. That's their blessing to be able to help you in any way that they can. And
absolutely,
I thought, that it helped me to accept when someone asks, do you need something? Or even just sit down and have a cup of coffee and not really say much of anything. Just having someone there sometimes, or is such a big deal. And I think it's important that people know that as a care, it's difficult as a caregiver because we don't want to leave the person because we're afraid that would be a moment that something horrible happens.
Right.
But, sometimes you need to take that time away just to refresh yourself and be a better you.
Yes.
And I always want people to know that you really need to take that break as a caregiver. And I know that you had the support. I was reading a part where it was a nurse that you knew because you were a nurse that was with him, and you felt comfortable with leaving and going home and taking a shower because you had that relationship with the people there at the hospital. Not everyone has that, but there are a lot of people that we need to call when we need some help to get through it.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much weight being placed on a caregiver when we're dealing with that. So tell me, you said that he had a really short recovery because most individuals have difficulty even trying to breathe.
That was a fear that he had. And it was funny when Dr. Harpole first came out and talked to us, I didn't ask him if he was on a ventilator. I didn't even think to ask him that. And I wished I had, but I wasn't about to call him back in there to ask him again. But when they brought him through the hallway, I could see they were not bagging him. And I knew if they were bagging him, that meant he was on a ventilator. And the first thing he said to us was, I can breathe. I can breathe. Because I think that really frightened him that he would not be able to breathe on his own. Yeah. But he was able to breathe. And he was so otherwise healthy that I think that really helped him. His weight was good.
I think that is, such a big thing, because when you go through the EPP surgery, if you're not if you're not in good health, it does create other issues when you're especially after the surgery, trying to breathe. And I spoke to someone, initially they didn't think she was going to survive after she had, the surgery, but slowly but surely she was coming out of it. But she was in the hospital for quite some time in recovery. So he had a very short recovery.
He did. But he didn't have any diabetes, no hypertension. He didn't have any other underlying health issues. That was really just it. So I think that helped him a lot. We had lots of support, lots of people coming to pray and lots of people coming to visit. Yeah. And I think sometimes it tired him out, but people were very understanding. When I said, he's really tired now, they took their leave. They were not offended. And some people drove like 3 hours to get there and they would only see him for like 10 or 15 minutes. And I thought, but they understood. And it was, it's just how it was. But they like to get you out of the hospital because they don't want you catching anything in the hospital while you're there.
I never thought about that, but that's true.
Part of it too. Yeah. He was safer at home. But I will tell you that even as a nurse caregiver, I was very frightened. If I had to do it over again, I would spend the first night at Durham in a hotel room. I would, because I was so fearful being 3 hours from Duke. And I was like, gosh, and if something happens, we have OBC, which is a wonderful hospital and 2 wonderful pulmonologists there, but I felt the real burden of that. And I think I would have spent at least the first night, maybe 2 nights there in case anything happened, but nothing did. Everything went smoothly. And I'm thankful for that.
It just sounds like everything for you all was very smooth. And
the only problem was really the pain control issue, because keeping his pain under control was really hard. And I could tell he was really hurting at times. And we eventually did see the pain specialists at Duke, and they're the ones who came up with methadone as a thing. And that really helped him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there something that you would do differently if you could do something different? Because everything seemed to run smooth. I don't know if there is.
Well, I wouldn't have done anything differently. We were very blessed. The only thing I will say is that I think it was hard on my children.
Yeah.
I learned through this that there's not very much support for grown children.
Yeah.
There's support for spouses somewhat, but I think they suffered, there's nothing I could have probably done, but we tried to make it, but I can see that was a hard time for them.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't think about, you think about the caregiver, you think about the patient, but then there's the family members that are struggling because they really don't completely understand everything that's going on, but they
didn't always understand. They were quite worried about him becoming hooked on medication. His pain, and we were very open and honest. We have very good communication, very strong communication, and I just said, I don't care if he gets hooked on it. It's about quality of life at this point, and he's got to do what works for him best, because there's side effects to all of it. And there were times that he did seem sleepy, and I was like, look, you can't drive, you got to wait and he sort of learned his limitations with that too. If he had just taken his medication, he wouldn't go anywhere. He had to time it so that he could drive and drive safely. But they had concerns about all that, and those are legitimate concerns.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys are big sports. You guys were really big. You and your family were really big in college sports. And
yep, we like college football. Yeah, and we were able to do a lot of that for a while.
Yeah. Right. So I wanted to read something from your book, and it's the first verse that you put in there, which is Mark 5:34, and it says, Jesus said to her, "My daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your troubles." And when I talked to you earlier and had asked if you wouldn't mind talking about the book that you put together and why you put the book together. And we know that the reason was to help other people go through some of the things that you went through. And as I mentioned earlier, I had happened to read a book about, someone had been in an accident. And so that helped me through when my husband was going through his cancer. So yeah, it's very helpful to know, or to be able to look at and even compare, oh, she went through this, and you were very well versed in the medical field, so it was helpful. But it also helps people to think about, oh, what should I ask, or what should I look for? And so it's helpful to have that. But when we talked earlier, you mentioned that you're going through something right now. Tell me what's going on.
Yes, I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma about a year ago. And initially, it was just smoldering and watch and wait, but it took off I would say about January, February this year, it just started growing. So I'm currently undergoing chemotherapy and all that stuff too. And
so it's been a difficult thing for you. And
it has.
One of the things you've learned is to, stay in tune with your children so that they don't. We learn something from everything, right?
You do. And that was my initial heartache, was that they were going to have to see another parent go through this. But they're tough. They're tough. They're wonderful. And they rose right to the occasion and said, Mom, we're here. We'll take care of you. And they have anything I've needed. They've been right here. And my grandchildren are older now, so they're able to truly help me. The first 3 times that I went through chemo, my daughter made sure that one of them was with me each time.
Yeah, it's tough.
It was very sweet. And it was very good for them. It was very good for me. And so, they're older now. Like I say, they can help, truly help. And so that's made a big difference too.
Right. So I read that verse because when you told me that, and then I opened this book and it says, Jesus said to her, my daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your troubles. And I was thinking of you when I read that. And I said, sometimes he gives us these words before.
He does.
And we don't know why he's giving us that word sometimes. And here we are.
Yep.
Well, I am so grateful that we were able to talk about it. We do have several copies. So if anyone is looking for a copy of this book, we have some. We don't have a whole lot, but do you know where someone could purchase this book if they?
I think you can get them off Amazon, and certainly if they call you, if they can
give us a call.
Send them. You give me I'll send it to them and all that. Yes.
Awesome. So if you're interested in reading her book, I thoroughly enjoyed reading her book. By all means, just give us a call. And we'd be more than happy to give you a copy of it. Maybe I can even get her to sign one for you. I don't know.
Sure.
But thank you so much for writing this, for giving hope to other people that have gone through, or that are going through it, actually, because, there's been a number of people that we've talked to that has survived it.
Yes.
So there is that possibility. And as much as you get that doom and gloom when you go online, it can happen.
It can happen. And MISO.org is a wonderful organization that will give you really good information as well.
Right. Yeah, there are some support groups out there, and we'd be more than happy to send you there if you want to give us a call. Linda, thank you so much. You've been amazing. I appreciate you. And if there's anything that I can do, even if it's just a conversation or something at the moment, I'd be more than happy to be there for you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to MISO, the Mesothelioma Podcast. For more information, resources, and support, visit our sponsors Danziger and Llano at dandel.com.